Good morning, everybody. What I'd like to start with is just a basic installation, just to save time and for convenience, I guess. I've already downloaded and installed the products off the website, just from fatsoft.com, because most does require the .NET framework and a SQL Server instance to be installed. It could take some time to install that, but I've gone ahead and done those steps already. So what I've installed so far, the Print2Me plugin and SharePoint. I've also installed the base server, which is a requirement for all of the plugins, and the VDP plugin, which we'll be looking at later on towards the end when we get into configuring more advanced features like the scripting capabilities. It's easier to do the scripting if you have the VDP plugin installed. So at this point, like I said, all I've done so far is download the applications and install them. To jump right into most, there's essentially four major components that come to mind. There's the Most Manager, which is a kind of a server-side interface that kind of shows the activity of what's currently happening. There's the Most Designer, which is what's used to configure the screen, how they look, what the user's experience is going to be, and permissions, assigning users to groups, that sort of thing. There's the MFD Control Center, which allows us to easily deploy Most to different manufacturers of MFDs, whether it's Ricoh, Lexmark, or HP. It's all one interface that allows us to install the software to the device. And then there's Most Desktop, which is an emulator or simulator that's very useful for troubleshooting and implementing new workflows, because you don't actually need a physical device to test them, and it can all be done from the server at that point. And as I continue, I'll be doing my best to try and show you some features on the MFT itself. I actually have a camera set up to show you the device. There's a good chance I'll use Most Desktop for the majority of today's session, though, just out of convenience. The first thing I'd like to do is look at the Most Manager. Like I said, the Most Manager is basically the server-side interface to show you what's currently happening on the server, and it has a few settings that should be configured or confirmed before continuing. Now, here I have my Windows 2012 server, which is becoming a common operating system now. What you'll see is on the desktop, I have a folder that Reform has created for shortcuts. Because the start menu on Windows 2012 is a bit different than previous versions of Windows, we've placed the shortcuts here for convenience. If we were to look at the start menu on the server, it's a little bit more difficult to navigate, to find all the different shortcuts that Most or Reform has installed. So one of the tricks that I like to use, which hopefully will be helpful to you guys, is using the taskbar down here. If I right-click on it and I select Toolbars, there's an option to create a new toolbar. And if I browse for that desktop folder that's right here next to my recycle bin, when I select it, it'll create a little menu down here that I can expand. And in my opinion, it's the closest thing to what previous versions of Windows had available as far as a quick start menu. So I find this to be helpful on a 2012 server. So from here, I'm going to go into my Most shortcut, and I'm going to open the Most Manager. Okay, so on the Most Manager screen, the first thing we have available is the recent activity. Now, since this is essentially a new environment, there's no activity other than the server starting up. There's also some statistics available, which again, at the moment, should be relatively clean because it's a fairly new environment. And if you have multiple servers, it'll show you which servers are available. I have only one server for this demonstration. Simulates pretty well what the copy machine is going to display to you. Now, what I'd like to continue into next is just going through the basic workflows that are provided with Most. So we're going to start with the scan to folder and scan to email. So I'm going to log in as the demo user. Again, we could use any account on the domain, and it'll work very similarly. I'm going to use the demo user just for simplicity because it'll allow me to show the file output on the server. So looking at my home folder,
it'll allow me to browse the folder structure right from the device. And the same scenario or same type of object and user experience is also available with different archive systems. What we'll see once we get into the SharePoint plugin is it has a similar structure that allows us to browse the SharePoint server, the SharePoint server, to determine where we'd like to store that file. So browsing a folder structure is a fairly common practice. Next option we have available is the file name. I'm just going to call it scan123 for now. And we have the file type if we'd like PDF or TIFF. There are other attachment types available. It's just the most common are PDF and TIFF, so that's typically what we leave on the screen as an option. We can also provide the user with scan settings, whether the document's going to be color or monochrome or grayscale, whether they'd like to scan from the feeder or glass, how many sides do the pages have, whether it's one-sided or two-sided. And there's other settings available as well, which we can add to the screen as needed. Now, keeping in mind I'm using most desktop on the server, those scan settings don't really play a role in what I'm about to do. But if I was doing the same procedures from the copy machine, they would help determine what the output would look like once I do scan the document. Now, if I hit scan on most desktop, what this will do is it'll prompt whether I'd like to scan from a device or browse for an existing image. I'm going to continue with an existing image, but I'd like to mention that most desktop does allow you to scan from Twain devices. So if you have a Twain scanner, which is installed maybe on your computer or on the network, most desktop allows you to scan from those devices as well. So it kind of helps bridge the gap for devices that don't have maybe a touch screen available on them. It'll allow you to still scan from that device and route it using the intelligence of most. So I'm going to browse for an image, since the Documents folder is the default that most desktop will display. So here I have my image that I've just copied and pasted into my documents. And I'm going to hit OK to process that. And here we have the scan preview. Like I said, this is an option available with the scan button. Some people prefer to have the preview. Some prefer just a continue option or no prompt after scanning, depending on what the user experience, I guess, will prefer. Once I've confirmed my document looks how I would expect it to, I'm just going to hit the finish. And at this point, I should be able to hopefully confirm that it reaches its destination by monitoring the status screen. So here we can see the screen has refreshed, and it states the time the document was scanned, the file name that was specified, and the current status, which is successful, which is good. Screen at this moment is designed to refresh on a set interval. I don't recall exactly how many seconds it will take before it refreshes, but essentially every certain number of seconds, the screen will refresh to show you the more current or more recent information. But it also will show you kind of a history of the scans that you've done. Now, the file that I scanned was going to this test1 folder, which actually corresponds to this test. If I was using a domain account, the home folder would be based on the user's LDAP information or Active Directory information. Same goes for their email address. I had browsed into the test1 subfolder, and that's where I expected my document to be scanned to. So that's basically the result of this scan to folder screen. Essentially do that same process quickly from the device just to show a variation and to show what you would expect on the copy machine instead. Okay. And I'm going to choose a folder and a new file name. It's the test2 folder this time. And just to show the difference, when I press the scan button on the machine, all it's going to do is, in this case, feed the paper through the automatic feeder. And again, it'll show me the preview on the screen. Now I use the scan button on the touch screen. If I press the hard scan button on the panel, it'll have the same result. Okay, and on the status screen, you can see the new status has showed up or has appeared on most desktop. And the reason I can see the status on most desktop is because I'm logged in as the same account. If I logged in as a different user, I wouldn't be able to see the other user's information. So you can see I named this one Scan 456 just for a little bit different naming structure. And we can see the file appeared in the test2 folder that I selected at the MFP. So again, I just wanted to show kind of the similarities and slight differences between most desktop and the machine, because most desktop will prompt you for that file or to scan from a tween device. I was hoping to just help clarify what the device would actually, or how the device would actually react.